From the studios of KENW on the campus of Eastern New Mexico University, it's You Should Know, featuring the people and events of Eastern New Mexico and West Texas.
Welcome to You Should Know. I'm your host, Evelyn Ledbetter, and I have the great pleasure of having Steven Michael Quezada here with me. Actor, politician, a little of everything.
Yeah, a little bit of everything, I think. And when you come from New Mexico, you have to have a few extra skill sets.
A little bit of everything.
You have to have a few extra skill sets. That's what my father taught me anyway. So, yeah, I'm a comic first, and then I'm an actor, and then I'm a community member.
And a writer.
But you have to, so they call you a politician. I'm not a big fan of that word, but, that's what you are when you run for office. I get it. Mm-hmm. But I've always just been a community guy. I just like, I've always, matter of fact, when I left Eastern New Mexico University and went back home, I started gang intervention programs and started doing a lot of the social work that I felt, was going to change some kids' lives.
Sure.
Because I learned something new here.
Well, let's talk about that. Tell me a little bit. Let's go back and your background. Where did you grew up in Albuquerque?
Yeah. So my family goes back about 700 years in New Mexico.
I read that.
Yeah. So we're, mostly Native American, mm-hmm. Pueblo Indian. I'm 40% that, and then I'm 23% Spanish. That's probably why I have a beard. And so that's where the 23% is. It's on my face.
Yeah, because the Native American.
Yeah, they don't have much face. I don't have nothing on my arms or anything else. Well, I got it here.
Mine's Cherokee and Irish and Scottish.
There you go. Yeah. So,
just a mixed bag.
That's what we are.
We are.
So that's what we are here in New Mexico. And so, I come from a poor family. I mean, hardworking family. Right. But we all grew up, 8 of us in a 1.5 bedroom home. In a rough part of Albuquerque, so dealt with a lot of violence and gangs and a lot of that growing up, and realistically thought that was the future for me.
That's where this is headed.
That's where it's headed, and that's what they tell us, right? They tell all the kids that. So this is where we think it is, despite that I actually had a very loving mother and father. Mm-hmm. Great brothers and sisters. Right. It was never that. It was everything around that we had to deal with. Opportunities. But I had my oldest brother was this really brilliant. He was born with a hole in his heart, so he'd always struggled to kind of just to live. But mm-hmm. he was super intelligent. So he taught us that if you pay attention and you learn, there might be a different route.
That you can make it, you can change and choose your path.
I didn't believe him. He's the oldest, I was the youngest, and I just said whatever. And I'm not going to be you, and I'm not you. And then the day that my dad dropped me off in front of Lincoln and laughed at me when he dropped me off.
Here at Eastern.
Here at Eastern, because this university was gracious to give me a scholarship for theater. I came out for a theater festival, and the professor at the time was Dr. Rucker, and so he reached out to me and offered me a theater scholarship, and it was that or the military. I wasn't quite sure, and because my dad was a military man, my brothers were military, but my brother, the brothers closest to me in age, said, "We've all served. We want you to go to college. We want you to do something different."
Where was your ranking with your siblings?
I'm the youngest.
You're the baby.
I was
me
the baby.
Too. Okay.
Yeah. And so, they dropped me off here, and
so your
I
dad
learned
laughed,
so much.
So your dad laughed. Why?
Because he didn't think I was going to make it. Yeah. He just, it's a small town. I'm from a big city. I'm more of an urban kind of kid, and so here I was in this rural place where they grew peanuts and flat,
right. Different climate,
just different, people were different. But, the good news is these people, when I met them, they were all from all over the place. They weren't just from here. Mm-hmm. And so I got to meet, people that have experienced other things, and they had goals, and they had, they believed in their goals.
I think it's a
they had
difference when
purpose.
you're first gen and you don't have that structure of someone
Yeah.
behind you to show you the ropes.
Yeah, I didn't have I was here. I thought maybe this is what I like. I wasn't sure, but you couldn't be that. And I learned from, I made some mistakes. So 2 weeks in, I joined a fraternity. 3 weeks in, I'm the president of that fraternity.
Oh,
I didn't even have a mustache, and I was the president of a fraternity.
well,
I walked into IFC here, and they were like, kid, you got to send the president of your fraternity to be part of IFC. And I go, oh, okay. And I turned around and walked out, and I waited a minute, and I walked back in, and I go, oh, that is me. I am the president of the fraternity. And so it was Dean Potts. I don't know if you remember Dean Potts back in the day.
I don't.
No, that he was gone too. But he was a good old boy. And he goes, I like that kid right there. Because I came in, I wasn't afraid of nobody. I wasn't going to let them try to change, rules to, kind of try to take our fraternity out.
So which fraternity?
I was a Phi Psi, so it was a Phi Kappa Psi. They're no longer here. But we were right there on South Avenue J, that old, I think at one point, we called it the Animal House.
Yep.
But at one point, it was like the first, I think, president's home way back when.
Way back in the day.
Way back, way back. And so, yeah, that house had a lot of problems. But I learned a lot, even just doing that. But I think it kind of got in the way of my studies because that became important to me, and it shouldn't have. But, those are all lessons, though, that either you learn from them or you let them destroy you.
Sure.
And so I learned from them. And
so Drama Fest is is that how you wound up at NMU?
And I just had been in a truck accident, and I had a neck brace, and I got here, and Patrick Rucker, Professor Rucker, saw me get out with the kids from West Mesa. And, we went in, and they did all these other, kind of workshops, whatnot, and then we performed a little later earlier in the evening, and I was about to walk on stage. I was the lead role in the play, and I ripped the neck brace off of my neck and went out and did the play. And when he saw that, he went, wow, I think this guy's taking this pretty serious.
He's committed.
And that's the students we want here at Eastern. And Eastern had, from what I knew, Eastern had a good theater program, and it was a good place to study theater.
So you had heard of Eastern before?
I had.
But a ways from Albuquerque,
but,
for sure.
How am I going to make it happen? Right?
Sure.
I didn't have a car.
Right.
There were certain things that I had limitations. So I really was thinking military at that point anyway. And then he reached out, and they sent me this scholarship, and that's when I told my pops. I said, you know what? I really love doing this. I think I want to pursue this. And it didn't go very well, but he did. He brought me here. He laughed at me. Dropped me off.
Yeah, usually when you have a kiddo saying, "I'm going to go into theater
or
acting,"
I mean, even I'll be.
It's a long shot.
And I'll be honest with you. If one of my daughters said that too, I'd probably have that same.
It's a long, hard road.
Are you sure? Because even with the connections I have, it's really hard to navigate, and there's no guarantee there. I had a sister who saw me do that, and then she went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in Pasadena, which is one of the hardest schools for theater to even graduate from. And because she was a woman of color, nothing happened for her. Went to the best school. Super talented, brilliant actress, great director. She could sing,
But because you weren't white.
And it's not even that, right? So this is what I will say about Hollywood. They only see one color in Hollywood. And that's the color green.
Oh, so whatever sells.
Yeah.
Whatever sells.
So when they look at a market analysis of a script, and they look, so realistically, back when I was in school here, there wasn't a whole lot of Latinos in film and television.
No.
Not many of them doing Shakespeare.
Sure.
Which is what I was studying here, right? Was Shakespeare, he's a brilliant writer, and that helped me tremendously as an actor, moving forward, being able to break down scripts, break down characters because he was such a good writer, and so it was hard to emulate what he did. And I was able to look at what a good script is and what a weak script is, and I'm still really good at that. So those are all the skill sets that I learned, but there wasn't really a reality in film and television for me.
So Eastern, do you really feel like that's what had such a significant influence
I
into
think it
your
opened
life?
me up to knowing that you have to believe and you have to have a goal and you have to, all these things that you think people just do, or if you're born with it, take for granted. I didn't have any of that. I never saw any of that where I grew up.
Sure.
I fought to get to school and I fought to get home, and it wasn't, my parents worked really hard to raise, all these kids, and so they didn't know any different. They thought education was the responsibility of APS and not them. And people on the other side of town knew better. They knew that they were responsible for their children's education, and that public education was there to assist them in that endeavor. But my parents didn't know any better. They didn't know that. I changed that. When I became a father, I became more involved, and that also helped my journey into politics as well, because I was involved in my children's school. And then from there, they asked me to run for the school board, and I ran for the school board. And there I fought for choices for kids through public education. And because of that and my success of that and how successful I was in that is when the community came and asked me to run for county commissioner. And so with that, I started looking at what we were doing, what we weren't doing in education, which was providing the wraparound services that education, another thing education is not responsible for, and that's the behavioral health piece. And so just on Tuesday, we launched 2 school-based health centers that are mobile, that will drive from school to school, providing
very nice.
Right, behavioral health, prevention, intervention, regular old stuff, colds, get kids in and out, get them to school so they're not sitting at an emergency room, missing school, and providing things that me and you didn't get. We didn't get counselors like that. The counselor just said, take this class, take that class. But so that wasn't really a help for us when it came to if we were dealing with something.
Sure.
Right? And in the neighborhoods I grew up in, everybody was, and no longer that's the case. That's everybody now. When I was growing up, it was a certain part of town.
Right.
That is no longer the case.
No, it isn't specific to any race
No, not
or
anymore,
anything
because
else.
we have scourges of fentanyl and all these, opioids have really hit everybody.
Sure.
And so, it's destroying us as a society, not just a certain, demographic, right? So this was something I worked really hard, and we launched that. And so Congresswoman Stansberry saw that and went, oh my God, who did that? And found out that it was me. And so she gave me money to buy a 3rd one. And so Bernalillo County is now going to start a whole department on that. And that way we're assisting education, right?
Sure.
So that's why, the whole, it takes a village, right? We all believe in that, and everybody says, yay, but then the village has to get to work then.
Right.
It's got to be bigger than just a statement.
That.
Yeah.
Well, and there was actually a quote that I came across in through all this, and basically you were saying, if you want your community to be successful and succeed, the best way for that to happen is for you to be involved. So I took that step. And I mean, that speaks volumes. The school board, you served on it, and you're currently still serving as a commissioner.
Yes, ma'am. And I'll be done in January. So I served 8 years as a county commissioner. And so at this point, I don't know what my future is going to hold. Everybody's asking me, we need you to run for governor, we need you to run for mayor. And I'm like, I said, I worked so hard on my career. Right? I have, though. And I know I'm 61 years old, but I've worked really hard on a career that I would really like to do at the end of my years.
Tell me this. You said if your daughter decided to go into acting or film, would you say Eastern's a good place to go?
Of course I would.
What would you tell other kids out there that you talk to?
I have a niece and nephew here, right?
I did not.
Yeah, so, Bryce and Jessica Mullins, they teach here at the school now. They got their master's degrees in music here at Eastern New Mexico University. She followed me here. She's the oldest of the nieces and nephews, so she's closest to me in age. of the nieces and nephews, and she came out here, and she's brilliant. She's written books on education and music, and she's a Greyhound. And I'm going to get to see her a little later.
How fun is that?
And Bryce, my nephew, right?
Very nice.
And, you know, I think what the opportunity at Eastern that people don't understand is that it was the same reason I went back and fought for charter schools, right?
Sure.
Not every kid belongs in that big old school.
Mm-hmm.
I talked about fighting. A lot of times my fighting was protecting other kids. My mom goes, why do you fight when you don't have to fight? And I go, I have to fight because they're picking on that kid that shouldn't even be at that school.
It's not a
But
good
back
fit.
then, there was no choices, right? You got to get on the bus and you go to that
Right.
school, wherever that bus dropped you
Whatever
off.
that district was or where you
You went there. That
Sure.
was the way it was. And here now, we had an opportunity to change that for this new generation, and I fought for that. And I didn't want that, you know. So my kids actually went to a performing arts charter school, although they weren't performing. My older daughters were dancers, you know.
Sure.
And you know how dancers are.
Now you said that. I
I
did.
did.
Just to make sure.
Dancer. But you know, they learned in dance, right? They didn't become professional dancers. It's hard on their body.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I thought me and my brothers were athletes until I met my daughters, and
They're
my
rock
daughters
stars.
were way better athletes than us any day of the week. You know, because we all played baseball, we played sports, but wow, dance, holy smokes!
A whole different discipline.
Oh man, physically. They were injured all the time. I was always
Rapping and
rubbing and soaking and ice bathing. You know, all the things you see football players do, my daughters
doing
did
that
that
too.
twice as hard and twice as much. But what they took away, so this is what they took away from that experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
They weren't lost in some big old school. They had really good friends. Everybody was, you know, kind of goal-minded and goal-oriented. You know, kind of didn't have just... You know, kids went to there because they had dreams, and you know, and so my children were a part of that, and got to meet kids that have that. And you know, my daughter, she just turned 30. She's owned her own home for like 2 years already. You know, if you want to hire somebody, hire a dancer, because they're dedicated.
They're going to do well.
They're dedicated. They work hard.
Structured.
They're structured. They're
The same as you in acting.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, because if you don't show up, somebody will replace you. Mm-hmm. Everybody's replaceable.
There's a line behind you, isn't there?
big giant
time.
line. Yeah, big giant line. So you have to do your best. And so they got that. And so that's what Eastern also offered. And I learned that. And so when I went back to fight for that, that's what it was. I wasn't for private school. I wasn't for it to make money. And that's where people got caught up with me saying, "Oh, you're
helping."
I'm advocating for public school
For the best
choice.
education.
But public
and
school
provide
choice.
that.
So to get in that school was a lottery.
It's a
Yeah,
level
you couldn't
field.
buy your way in because they have private schools. People who have money, they can
Sure.
send their kids to private school.
That's true.
You weren't already, you couldn't stop that. You already had private schools there that were doing really well and teaching at a higher level, but you got to pay for that. And what I was trying to do is get people from the neighborhood where I live to be able to give their kids school choice. That was the fight for me.
Sure. Well, let's dig into this just for a short.
Okay.
I don't have near as much time. I could sit here and talk to you for 2 hours, literally. But tell me how Breaking Bad came about, getting your foot in the door with it.
Well, you know, I did comedy. I kind of left theater behind. I was writing and producing plays in Albuquerque, and I was doing okay. Mm-hmm. I would sell them out for the weekend, but sell out in the weekend for theater meant you broke even.
Ow.
So then you paid for like all the lumber and everything for your sets. You paid the actors that you hired to do the play with you, advertisement, rental of the facility,
Production crews.
all of that. You break even, and that was success.
And you're starving.
And you're sleeping in a van, and your car don't start. And so I went to comedy because I was a writer, and I'd already dabbled in it a little bit. So I knew I was brave enough to do it, and so I did that. And then in 2005, after touring from club to club, and I was still driving. I would drive all throughout the Southwest, performing at comedy clubs and bars, or whoever would hire me. Mm-hmm. And so my wife goes, "Why don't you try the acting thing again?" She goes,
"Give that a shot."
She goes, "Because you left because there wasn't a whole lot of roles for Latinos, but now that has changed. Mm-hmm. Storytelling now is reflecting what
your society
we
looks
look
like,
right? And because we weren't buying those stories anymore. We were like, it's good, but you didn't It's missing something.
There was a lot more than just Beaver Cleaver type sitcoms and things.
Exactly. And so it was, so we saw TV
Sure.
evolve. We all watched it and we loved it and we were all yay and it was better and it was funnier and it was creative. Although there's something to be said about the really good old stuff, we needed to evolve. And so my wife goes, it's evolved. She goes, you need to give it a try again.
Jump on that wagon.
So I did. I went back. I got an agent. And my first audition, I got it. It's 5 lines, but I got it.
You got it.
Yeah.
Hey.
And so in this industry, if you're working, people want to work with you.
You're a paid actor at that point.
Yeah, so people want
You
to
can
work
put
with
that-
you. So that's how I ended up in 2007, standing in a room where Vince Gilligan was sitting there with a camera. And what was great is that he remembered me as a comedian when I walked in.
Okay.
And for some reason, he was casting comedians and comic actors to do this crazy drama that he just written.
And it was. And the relationship with you and Hank, Dean Norris, sorry, I just went
That's
blank.
okay.
I mean, it came through. And truly, like what I saw the first season or two, it was a comedic, like you guys played off of each other, the criticisms and everything that Hank dished out to you. I mean, you just rolled with that and it was great to watch.
We became friends instantly.
Wow.
And that's what you saw on screen.
Well, it came across. And
Yeah.
so actually, AMC, they started doing some little spots that I've watched, and one of you and Hank on a playground. And you're just doing that comedy scene of this is our training for DEA agents.
Yeah.
And you're bumping bellies on the monkey bars and in a tire swing. And that was just,
Yeah, me and Dean shot that. I brought my camera and we set it up and we did that ourselves.
that was hilarious.
Yeah, we wanted to do that ourselves because we became friends instantly. So I don't know if anyone's ever heard this story, but I'm sitting there. First time I meet him, they sent me to DEA training. And so I'm sitting in the DEA office, but on the way over, I drink milk. I'm a milk drinker, and I just didn't get my milk, and so I stopped to get a milk. And then I go down to the DEA, and I'm sitting in the lobby of the DEA with my thing of milk. And in comes Dean Norris and Bryan Cranston.
Oh.
Because Bryan goes, I'm going to go with you to go check out the DEA training. Because I guess he was off that day or whatever. I hadn't met him, either one of them yet. So I walk in, and Dean walks in, and he stops, and he looks at me. And he goes, milk? My partner drinks milk? And I go, yeah, that's why I'm better and stronger than you.
That's why I'm better looking than you,
And
Hank.
he goes, oh, I'm going to like you.
We're going to do just fine.
And I'm telling you, if we were on set, we were on the golf course, and if not, we were having barbecues. We had young kids at the same time. And, I just was with them a couple of weeks ago. We're doing the Comic-Cons now. And so we were just hanging out for a weekend, So he's going to come back. I'm doing a movie in January with Raymond Cruz and Dean Norris and Sal Gomez. And, those are the main, us four are the main actors. There's a cameo with Wes Studi in it. And, I've made friends with people who are creative and want to be artists on another level. And so I'm just so blessed. I don't know what to tell you how blessed I am, and that my journey that started in front of Lincoln Hall ended. It hasn't ended, but but it's gotten me in a point where. And so that's why politically I tell people I loved what I did, and I did a lot of great things, but we got to pass that on. I truly believe that some people are in these positions way too long. And you leave out somebody that comes in with a better idea or a more creative way of getting things done, and because there's so many smart, talented people on this earth, and you can't be the only one doing it. And I think there should be term limits. And
Term limits.
I just believe there is, and the county there is, and thank God, because that community would still be on me. You go back. We need and now I get to say I'm done. I'm termed out. So somebody's got to take it over.
Right.
And I think. And at the federal level, I'm willing to give them 12 years, but because we only have 8 years here, but because it's hard, and I understand what they're navigating. It's not. People look at it and we get upset because they're not doing anything, but it's not easy to do anything. That's the problem. But that's the way it's set up, and you got to work within the rules because those are there, so it limits the corruption. as much as we possibly can.
And you have to go back home and be accountable to
And you
your
do.
friends and family.
And you should, right?
Yeah.
But to have them there for that long, on both sides of the aisle, I'm not quite sure if that's what our forefathers thought was the greatest idea.
I don't know.
We would never know that. But it is who we are,
Sure.
and hopefully we survive every election moving forward, coming forward, and really figure out that, we're stronger together,
Sure.
right? Because we are the greatest nation.
Oh, Stephen, time goes by way too fast.
I know.
Way too fast, but it has been such a pleasure. The writing and the acting on that was great. And
It was.
your comedy, I've listened to you, and you're hilarious.
Thank you.
What a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And it's fun that we're both greyhounds, right?
That's right. Greyhounds all the way. You got
There
it.
you go.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And to all of you watching, thank you. We will see you next time. Cheers.